All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Winterviews. We're in Series 5, Episode 9. I am your host, Catherine Silva, Cat for short, and tonight we have the wonderful Jason Alexander here on the
What's
show.
up, y'all? What's up? Make some noise. It's like the most cheerful part of this conversation, and it's going to go off the rails quickly.
Straight into the horror. So Jason is you're a fellow Mainer, which is wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Auburn, Maine. Yep.
And we're experiencing a bit of sort of backtracking into our third winter here.
This is the last one. This is the absolute last one, though.
That's what I'd hope.
Yes.
It was pretty nice, and now I think we're supposed to get snow this weekend, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looks like a lot more than I was expecting, but, we saw grass. We know it's there. We know it's real. This is like our water world.
It's coming. I was in Virginia, the beginning of this month, and
Yeah.
it was like 60 degrees, walking in sunshine, like really nice, and then came back to snow.
Yeah. So I'm from North Carolina, so it's like I'm used to having allergies by now. Even like I've been up here for so long now, but I'm still like the little kid in me is like, why are my eyes not itchy? And it's like, oh, it's because it's 28 degrees outside. There's no pollen yet. So
Which must be nice though for the allergy thing. Because
I'm a happy camper in Maine. I was always from Maine. I just didn't know it yet. So it's all good. I get cold, but I don't care. It's all good. I'd rather be here.
Well, if you wouldn't mind sort of giving an introduction about you and what you write, and maybe talking a little bit about Fogbreaker Studios too.
Excellent.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Fogbreaker Studios, Jason Alexander. It's a one-man show that's held down by a lot of support. And I do horror. I do horror art. I have a store opening up in Lewiston April 1st. It's called 83 and Company. We have everything, and I'm going to have a pretty dope section that is horror, a little bit of pro wrestling, a little bit of Maine, like just everything that will remind you of like the cool weird shit. And the store overall is full of cool weird shit, like wet specimens. We're gonna have a build a duck. Like I don't want to go on and on forever on it, but it's a destination. Like it will definitely be a destination in the area. So we're just joining the core of LA arts businesses downtown, and we're gonna have a pretty special summer. So, but beyond that, I have 3 stories that I'm cooking right now that are pretty twisted. I'm a cult survivor, so a lot of my early horror and still a lot of my horror comes from things related to that. But I love horror. I feel like horror is the great communicator among fiction writers, and there's so many different flavors of it. Your show is like a perfect example of it. So there's so many different things to talk about in horror, and I have so many different things to say in horror. So I'm just, I'm trying to ride the wave and talk to other creators and just make sure I leave my stamp with like we have Stephen King. So it's like, why wouldn't we want to, like we don't ever have to worry about measuring up. So it's like we really get free money in Maine to like write out our trauma and make it as fun as possible. So that's Fogbreaker Studios in a nutshell. It's like cult terror, horror mayhem, but controlled, not like it's all on a page somewhere. So that's just kind of me.
Awesome. I definitely, the minute that you said wet specimens, I got very excited.
Oh yeah, we have some pretty talented folks that do those. Yeah, Yeah, we definitely. I'll send you some pictures and stuff, and like when you get a chance to make it down, when you're down this way again, if you ever do
Yeah,
another thing at Quiet City, like come over and check us out.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, very excited. Fellow Mainers in, the chat who might be watching, definitely make sure that you make it down to check out Jason and his
83 and
store.
Company, Morto Viventi Oddities is kind of the anchor of the store. They're writing the ship, so and they are who does like the dopest taxidermy you can imagine. So, Morto Viventi Oddities, Fagbreaker Studios. We're kind of like the information gatherers for 83 and Company, but if you're into just the horror creations, Fagbreaker Studios.
Awesome. I'm excited.
I'm
Today,
excited.
the kind of horror that we're sinking into is psychological horror, um, of which it's a pretty big subgenre within horror, basically dealing with the mind. A lot of the time, dealing with the idea that like, are the things that you're experiencing actually real, or are you kind of going crazy? That's just one aspect of it, but a big part of it. Um, and it's a really fun subject to get into for this show.
For sure.
Um, I do like I as much as I don't want to like trigger any trauma or anything. You did say cult survivor, so
Yep.
I'm a little curious about that. But we don't have to talk about that if
Oh
that's
no, no, no. We're good. We're all good. We can talk about whatever. So
okay.
fire away. Whatever questions you have about it. Like this is my way through. So it's really all good.
Okay. Really, I'm just curious about like what cult, where, like, was this kind of just a thing that you became a part of as an adult or as a kid, or
I was
guess
a
the
born
whole show?
in Jehovah's Witness.
Ah,
My mom says that she was baptized while she was pregnant with me. So I was
yeah.
twice baked, So
Mhm.
I was baptized at 12, which is, you're signing on to be separated from your family if you mess up. Um, but I believed it. And I
Mhm.
believed it until I was about 36 years old. And there was the constant risk of having to lose everything, lose my wife, lose my kids, lose my family up here and in North Carolina. Um,
Mhm.
but when something is wrong, it's just wrong. And like the cost of it didn't matter anymore because it took me about a year and a half of walking to work instead of driving to work so that I could listen to YouTube videos while I was walking
Mhm.
to and from work. And it was quite a while before I could really make that known, but it was it was a hard road. I pay for it every day
Mhm.
still. But it was a worthy cause because it I really believe that it saved my life and I believe that it saved my family's life. So
Mhm.
some things you just have to do. And if I had to be
Mhm.
the first one to like step on the ice and make sure I didn't fall through, I'd have to pick it 1,000 times, even if one time I did end up falling through.
Yeah. Um, I know of other people who were Jehovah's Witnesses in Utah,
Yep. Yep. Oh man,
who
I can't
have
even imagine.
who have since moved out of that
Yep.
really toxic environment.
Yep.
Um, and it's I just I don't I sympathize so hard
It's
with
so
anybody
terrible.
having.
Like it really is. It's so terrible. Like, and I think that anybody who's in a cult, I think that that's a hard situation, and I would never choose somebody else's um I would never choose somebody else's damage over mine. But at
Mm,
the same time, it's so much worse. Like being a Jehovah's Witness is so much worse than anybody will ever know, unless they get out of the organization. Not even, not even they get old and leave. You have to identify it.
hmm
You have to understand that like you are a part of something like this legitimately terrible. One of the worst things in the United States is, and that's saying a lot, but
hmm
I truly believe it. Um, and I'm so, like, this is what I was talking about. Like, I can just start, but we can get
hmm
back on track in a minute. But
Yeah.
being it's so hard to really wrap my brain around how numb I am to, and I don't mean numb in the sense that I don't care. I just mean like there's a calm that I've been able to maintain through legitimately watching the world end. Like because I they've always said all this stuff. Like we've
hmm
always been conditioned to see horrible pictures of death and destruction as little kids who can't read or who don't really understand what it's like to sit in a convention center for 8 hours and listen. So we're flipping through these books that have paradise, but then these awful pictures of destruction. That
hmm
is that's mind control.
Yeah.
It may not seem like it, you know, there's no
No.
crystal balls, but that's mind control. And then the things that you hear that don't, you just become a Google. You become a Google search.
Yeah.
You know to listen for certain words to either try to persuade somebody to be a Jehovah's Witness or just simply the right thing, the right time to say something that sounds good as a Jehovah's Witness. It's really twisted. Like it
Yeah.
legitimately is. And like we haven't even gotten to the the terrible stuff, the abuse, like the legitimate abuse and the harboring of abusers. Like it's got it all. Like and
Mhm.
it's the only worst thing than Jonestown is having to do Jonestown forever.
Yeah.
That's the second worst reality, and that's being a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely desensitization. There's uh, bringing back actually something that we were talking about in a different show. The Plato in the cave scenario, which is the you know having your view be just of this one thing and not being able to see what's sort of making the shadows on the cave wall because that's just your entire world, and that's what this sounds like. It just
Hundred percent.
you're being fed a very focused view of something that they want you to see. um
That's
so
all you
it's
get to
yeah,
see.
it's horrible.
Yep.
And I do thank you for sharing with us that. And because I know that that's difficult, even though it is, even though you've said that you've kind of found a calm with it.
It's
I'm sorry.
necessary to talk about it because that's their secret weapon for those of us that get out is we are so, and it's justifiable. Like I would never, it's never anybody's business how they grieve or how they deal with something that happened to them like this.
Mhm.
But they can keep their secrets and they can keep the worst parts of it because the people who go through the worst parts can't, they take their power away to talk about it. And I understand how that is, but we can never show people who haven't lived through it
Yeah.
what it's really like. Um, there so many people won't believe it anyway, but the more people that hear it, the more people you'll realize that will understand that it doesn't matter if they get it or they experienced it. It matters that enough people talk about it to care about it to make it go away. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not one for ever punishing a human for their religious beliefs, but I am for people creating ideologies that separate families and kill people. And
Yeah.
I won't, and I live through this. And if that strikes a nerve with you in another situation, that's something that you have to explore. But I'm telling you, I
Mhm.
lived through it. And I don't know how somebody who was born in it can ever see enough and educate themselves enough from a standpoint that they legitimately thought was mental poison to get out of it. I legit had to take my space helmet off in outer space to see if it was going to kill me or not.
Yeah.
And and it's not just me. And it's not just the people who talk about it. There's so many more people who feel like they cannot speak about it. And I understand why, and I hope that one day they can say something about it,
Hmm.
because what they experienced was real. Whatever they felt was real. And I don't really know how to explain that, but people make up things all the time. But what you if you go somewhere in a Kingdom Hall and you say, I kind of felt like this, you're right. This brother made me feel like this. No, that's probably because he wanted to.
Hmm.
He just wanted to. And you see every aspect of the worst things about religion and about people at a Kingdom Hall
Hmm.
multiple times a week. So,
Jeez.
like, that's that's
That's,
psychological horror. Like,
yeah. I was about to
that's
say.
it. It's like I realize how like that's a genres become niches and people take niches at a certain point as cliches, but these big subgenres of horror exist because people connect to them.
Hmm.
And this is as crazy as it sounds, and I hate to use that word, but sometimes like you got to get on the roller coaster that scares you the most to like feel it in a controlled environment. And I mean, I feel like that's probably why I personally gravitated to psychological horror. And
Sure.
I see psychological horror in things that most people don't see it, because I connect to it the way that I do.
Hmm. Yeah. That's well, that rolls into my first question very naturally, which is, talking about the mind manifesting fears, trying to figure out if they're real or not, um, and then how to portray that on the page. Um, so I guess the question is, how do you, as a writer, develop a character's greatest fears on the page when it comes to sort of interpreting them as either as not really like, could this be physical, could this be uh, just something in my mind?
I think one of the things that I always try to remind myself of is writing is relatability. And sometimes it comes out as energy, right? Like, I don't know I don't know your story, but I know that at some point, because we're both humans, we have felt the same way about something. You know, we've had that deep fear about something, whether that is deep fear, as in one of my stories about doubt, and what happens when you have doubt that you start to see reflected back at you in the real world. Kind of like gosh, what was that Johnny Depp movie? I know it was a book too. Secret Window.
Oh yeah, Secret Window.
The first
Yeah.
thing you write about that you see in real life is a coincidence. Then it kind of becomes a little unnerving.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Mouth of Madness did the same thing. John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. You This whole thing unfolds to where you don't know if you are experiencing something in real life that was in a book. You don't know if you're in the book, or you don't know if there was never a book and this was all real. Um, so I love taking characters and just isolating that feeling, that whether that's that moment of anxiety where you might talk to someone who is trying to help you, but you take offense at their words for a fantastic, and I don't mean fantastic in a good way, but just one of those cooked up anxiety moments that you have
Mm-hmm.
where the offense becomes like an attack, but it's really just inside.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like? I'll give you an example. One of the three stories that I want to unleash this year is called Magic Thinking, and it starts with a gentleman sitting in a bathtub, running over his therapy session in his mind, and how his therapist is trying to take trying to take a part of his identity away from him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's convinced of it. But where does that go? And I don't want to really. It's a really short story, and I don't want to give up the whole. I
Sure.
don't want to give up the ghost today, but you may not have experienced that the way that I did, because this story, believe it or not, is inspired by The Empire Strikes Back, which is my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, sweet.
But
Nice.
I isolated this one tiny section of a daydream that I had when watching it and turned it into this weird thing, all because I know a lot of people have have felt offense over somebody trying to say something to help them out. And what does that look like in that moment of anxiety when it gets off the rails? It's not a good guy, bad guy thing, but it's a feeling that, if you can scribble it down, can really get weird. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if it's legitimately running away with your thoughts, and like that's one aspect of psychological horror that I captured in probably an 8-page comic or less.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
but when you read that, you'll connect with that feeling that's not a spooky feeling, but a indignant feeling, that if it's not checked and you're right, what does that become?
Mm-hmm.
And what does winning look like in that situation?
Yeah. A lot of it is you're also you have to do this job of like convincing the reader as well. You have to be able to um, get into this character's head and convince this reader enough that the plausible things are implausible. Um, and that's and then waffling on that is even harder. Um, but when you can do that really convincingly, that's when you've got a really good
You
story.
have to create enough doubt to make them turn the page,
Yeah.
even in regret sometimes. And in
Yeah.
psychological horror, it's as unhinged as it is. My goal is to like trap you in that feeling of blank. Now you have to deal with my weird story, but I've knocked you off your balance
Mm-hmm.
because you are also thinking about that thing, that one thing that I said reminded you of.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Have you seen Midsummer?
I have not. I
Oh my
know what
gosh.
I know what happens because it's
Okay.
been, obviously spoiled for me at this
Yeah,
point.
it's been a
But
little bit. Yeah.
um but yeah, I haven't seen it, which I'm sad.
So whenever you watch it, if we ever chat again, totally should, number one. But um why I could talk about that movie for hours. It's one of my it's probably my it's not the best horror movie to me, but it's probably in my top two. It's probably in my top two horror movies.
Okay.
Sometimes I want to say it's my favorite, but it may not be for any other reason than how I personally connect to it, which is very bizarre because I'll never be the May Queen. I am not designated to be the May Queen, right? But I understand why you would try. Like I totally get it. But what about Hereditary? Have you seen Hereditary?
I haven't seen Hereditary either. I'm
Damn.
terrible. I've
Okay.
never
That's
watched any
okay.
Ari Aster. I'm horrible.
Okay. Those two are definitely my favorites. And I bring them up for a particular reason. Um, there's sounds that you hear in both of those movies that mentally took me so Hereditary, it took me about 8 months to like watch the whole thing because it was like
Mhm.
it was a very start and stop experience the first time.
It's
Um,
intense. It's an intense film.
very intense, absolutely. Midsummer I was engrossed with, but there's sounds that take me to a different place that then I have to deal with that sound in my head for the rest of the movie. And that's like it makes me vulnerable
Hmm.
to experience your story. And I think that that's kind of that's where the sweet spot is. Like that's the oyster of storytelling is like we have to go through this together, but I need you to be where I am to go through this without me trying to evangelize my feelings. You can't feel
Yeah.
my feelings, but I need you sometimes to get to that raw point so
Yeah.
that we can navigate this together. Like we can't tread the same things if we're not wearing the same shoes.
Yeah.
So
I hear
that's
you.
just kind of creating connective tissue in psychological horror as a writer, or how my goal is, because Lord knows there's people who've done it a lot longer than I have and very different.
I mean, it all makes sense to me. Uh that whole idea makes sense to me. So I think you've definitely got the right way about it going. Um and when you were mentioning those films, I actually thought of one that I think you would like if you haven't seen it. And it's a little like indie film called Bersarian Sound Studio.
Oh no, I haven't even heard of this one.
And so it is about a guy who makes the sound effects for films. And
Okay.
he's hired on by this Italian film studio to come and do the sounds for this film that they're trying to make. And they keep telling him that it is a film about like a horse or a horse race or something to that effect. And the entire time, all the visuals hint that it's a horror movie, but no one will admit that that's what it's about. And the sounds that he's emulating for this film also make it sound like it's a horror film. So all that you get from the actual film are just the images. And then
That's awesome.
the occasional, like, he's providing the sounds, like he'll be chopping a head of lettuce or something. And then he's just kind of slowly like wondering if he is losing his own mind because no one else will admit that this is what this is. And it's a great film.
I dig that. Yeah, that sounds like I would dig that. That's right in my wheelhouse there. Yeah.
So that, I mean, that jumps into that whole thing as well. Now I do want to get into establishing the overall world that is sort of the created world within a psychological horror. And I'm just going to read verbatim what I wrote as a question.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Easiest.
Yeah.
So the world in which your character inhabits can often be used as a mirror for their psychological state. This famously happens in media like Silent Hill, I think is a great one. Have you used setting to amp up the stakes in your psychological horror work?
This was so when I read this question, I was like, okay, like it's one of those things where it's like, well, technically everything is this or that, but I kind of dug around and I like really like thought about the question, and it made me realize that New Light, which is a story I wrote, I've got one issue out now. A lot of people around the area have it. Like it's sold pretty well, but it's a guy who's doubting. He's in a cult, and he's going through the doubts, and he's going through the grief of what leaving is. But all of this is happening just before a church meeting. So the world of this story is in not just in this particular church, but it's like during a church meeting. And so the world is a world that he knows that he's leaving. So it's the old lady who always gives him the jelly-filled strawberry candies. It's this building that he's been in since he was a kid. While he's going through these doubts, everything starts to kind of manifest on the outside. And I think that our conversation will go through the next portion of this, so I won't say too much now so I don't repeat myself. But you kind of take this world of, no, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. A lot of times world building feels overwhelming until you start from the inside. Like start with a room in the house instead of the whole house. And maybe this like impending dread happens in this room in this house. And so I start my worlds really small. Like I start my worlds like very personal, it's still very experience based. And I realized that a lot of my stories are trapped. Like, and I didn't really intend it that way, but I knew that the tension always came from this realization of being trapped. And sometimes I don't like to write it from the standpoint of the realization of being trapped, but the walls definitely start to close in, like through building these tense worlds. Silent Hill did it with the static on the radio in the first game. It was like you can't see but like 2 steps ahead of you. And it's like when you're going the wrong way, you're picking up all this heavy static. So Silent Hill, you're running down the street, but you can only see as much as your flashlight will shine. And I think that that's another reason why it's fun to write these very tight worlds with psychological horror. You know, trapped
Mhm.
inside of a building that you're going to be in for 2 hours, that people are still getting up and going to the bathroom and listening to this guy talk about something that if you knew you couldn't leave, none of this would ever matter. Like if
Mhm.
you knew you couldn't leave, but what if you're the only person who knows that you can't leave? What if
Yeah.
what if it's just you who sees the worst of it? And even when other people see it's very similar to this story you were just talking about. Like when other people see the worst of it, they convince themselves that it's something else, or they convince you that it's something else.
Mhm.
And you can't know either way at a certain point. You just can't.
Yeah. Um, I'm reminded actually of a story that you read at at Quiet City Books,
Yep.
which fits this very
A
well.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and it was such an awesome story.
Thank you. I
Because it's
appreciate that.
obviously stayed with me since then.
That's pretty
Um,
awesome.
but it definitely falls into this, like, you're convinced of something and then the the cloth is slowly pulled away from your
Absolutely. Yep.
eyes. Um,
Have you
but
are you familiar with the lamp story?
the lamp story.
It was like a Reddit post about this guy
Um,
who he basically what it is, and I'm way undercutting it, but it's probably my favorite piece of psychological horror. But anyway, this guy has basically a 10-year life. He's married, he meets his wife, he gets married, he has children, his children grow up. One day he comes home from work, he's sitting in his living room and he looks over at this lamp in his living room and he just says, there's something about that lamp that's not right. There's something about this lamp and it's just not right. He becomes obsessed with this lamp. He's just staring at it for days and days, and he's trying to convince his wife that something about this lamp is just not right.
hmm.
And he figures it out. He sees the lamp. He is trying to explain what's wrong with it. He wakes up. This entire life happened because he fell and banged his head on a curb and was unconscious for a few minutes. And he lives his life defeated and grieving this wife and these children that never existed.
Oh, jeez.
Is the heaviest, shortest. It was a Reddit post, I believe that's where it started, but it's the most unhinged, terrifying thing that
Yeah.
every day you wake up 20 years ago and none of your life to this point was anything related to what it is.
Hmm.
It's just I felt like as soon as when I was like, I knew I wanted to talk about that if we talked about psychological horror. Like
Yeah.
it's because it's all these little gems. Like real psychological horror is just it's always around in these little gems because at a certain point, if it doesn't affect your brain and make you run with it, it's not really psychological horror.
Yeah.
Like it's got a job to do.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
It
Like
totally is. It really
the,
is. Yep.
the idea, I mean, really it preys upon the idea of losing something that you think you have, or well, losing something that a lot of people want, which is
Yep.
stability,
Yep.
um, and love and
Right.
everything else. And so it's yeah, it's that's really
It only
horrifying.
existed in your mind. Like you
Yep.
you expressed it the biggest ways, like as far as like having kids and raising them. And then you're just knocked unconscious for legit 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, life goes on. You got a sore neck. It's like,
God,
how do you ever explain that? How do
the
you're trapped
time.
in that feeling for forever?
Yeah. It's such a like the time manipulation of that as well, because it feels
Yep.
like it's God.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
right there it's like right there along the lines of like simulation theory, and it's right there along the lines of like, and it's not a good thing, but like just the, like you said, feeling like the things that you want they're never really yours.
Mhm.
They're just never really yours. It's just, it gets right in my hidden bits whenever I think about that story. Like it just settles into my bones. It really does.
Yeah. That's yeah. Well, now I've got a story that I'm really afraid of, and it's that one. So
Yeah,
thanks.
there we go. Yep.
Um,
Hey, I'm
I
just doing my service.
yeah, no, that's fair. So related, but the idea of psychological and surreal horror, um, kind of going hand in hand. And when I think about that, I think about oh, it's a movie, and now the title's gone out of my brain. Damn it. The Cell. I think about The Cell.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so talking about the similarities between psychological and surreal horror, illustrating a character's mental state, I guess, is our next question. Because I think The Cell did such a phenomenal job of, getting inside this serial killer's mind, and it's just like this unhinged, random, beautiful, gorgeous um, visuals, and just uh, you don't know what to expect.
Yep.
um, so that's
I don't.
my
I don't
questions.
think I've seen this one. I'll put that on the list.
Okay, it's so the guy who directs it is Tarsim, or God, Tarsim Singh, I think is his name, and he's known for doing these highly visual, like high contrast um films with lots of bold imagery.
Okay.
And The Cell was kind of one of his first films, and there's just all of this sort of, not deranged necessarily, but there's definitely some like frightening imagery, um lots of like costume and grandiose like stuff going on.
Yep.
But it's all about this uh serial killer who's in a coma, who had a victim before he was in the coma, and he's the only one that knows where the victim is. And so they have this psychologist played by Jennifer Lopez who goes into his brain to try and like figure out where the kid, the
Okay.
victim is. Um, and then a lot of it is happening just like in the serial killer's head. And but it plays around with a lot of that, just like you're in somebody's mind, so it's not real. A lot of the stuff that's happening is not real.
Right. It's
um
a different playground. Yeah.
exactly. So that's, I guess my question is more about like using the mind to manipulate the story,
Yeah.
and you know kind of goes back to the first question I had, which is, whether things are in your head or if they're real.
Right.
And if you know that they're in somebody's head, uh, turning those horrors into something that still feels frightening, that can still hurt you.
Right. So New Light, um, New Light goes on as this guy is trapped inside of this church. Um, an AI, and this was written years ago. An
Hmm.
AI takes a physical form inside of this meeting, and
Okay.
that is kind of that's the element of doubt of it, of how unbelievable everything is. But now there's this AI that's been unleashed that can do a lot of the unreal things.
Mm.
So you're experiencing it internally, but at the same time, this AI might look like somebody's dead relative. And it's not a ghost. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It might make you look like you are looking at someone else when everybody else sees something else. And
Mm.
I did for a little bit. Like I went through a different few AI phases, and then I get such a kick out of seeing it be in these early stages, and it's already like so not good. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
okay, like maybe this is unfortunately maybe this is my secret window. Like I don't really want it to be, but like it's what does your mind do? Magic thinking ends up doing the same thing, and I might tell you more about that one
Okay.
when we're not live. But
Yeah.
it's, you know how certain stories you're like, I can spoil this to a writer, like I can
Yeah.
spoil this story
Yeah.
to a writer because this is one of those like moments that we all get a kick out of,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
other horror writers. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll chat about that one. But it's
Awesome.
and it's like it's a movie I love, but sometimes I daydream while I'm watching my favorite things, and
Hmm.
my daydreams are not always pleasant. So it, we do the things that we do. But yeah, psychological horror, I believe it's one of the pillars. I would believe that it's probably one of the pillars of the genre because
Hmm.
heart pounding is one thing, which is, I believe, like things that can make your heart pound are a big chunk of what we love about horror. But a close second has to be the feeling of what
Yeah.
makes your heart pound. And you know, I imagine Cujo was a whole different movie to people who had been attacked by dogs before.
Hmm.
I imagine
Yeah.
reading Cujo was a whole different experience, which it was scary to me. And I've never been bitten by a dog bigger than 10 or 12 pounds because that's the way it goes, right? But
Yeah. I
that's,
think,
it's like, but that's being in a
yeah.
car. Like Linda Hamilton is trapped in this car in the heat with a kid having an asthma attack. All those things are things that can happen.
Yep.
And the world goes sideways from there.
Yep. That's a very realistic one.
Absolutely, yeah.
And having been, I have not been bitten by a dog, but certainly have been charged at,
Yep.
and even that in itself is like weird trauma. It's like something that you don't even expect is going to pop up again, and then it hits you in weird moments.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, the trauma aspect of psychological horror is that, like, for those people who have encountered something that you kind of like click, uh and added frightening more frightening bit,
Yep.
it's like that's, I guess, where you sort of hit on trigger warnings a little bit of the time. So you do sort of have to, that's why we have trigger warnings.
Right.
But last night we were talking about um The Haunting of Hill House, because that was one of the we were talking about haunted houses, and The Haunting of Hill House is one of those very classic haunted house stories that everybody knows, and that is absolutely mostly psychological horror, because it is all playing with this idea that a lot of what's happening is happening in this one person's head, and they
Sure.
can't figure out whether or not it's real or not. And that's just like, that's as classic as it gets. A lot of classic literature falls into psychological horror.
Absolutely. Yep. But that's, it's like it can be on the nose. Like it can be. Sometimes it's on the nose. Sometimes it's, oh man, this experience is so similar to what I experienced. And that's fine. But I think that when you can like get into the nervous system, I think that that's where like where I said like certain things like get into my bones.
Yeah.
Like that's where it's really like off. That's where it's off. Like that's where it's off enough to really like take you on that unsettling ride. Like, how is this happening?
Yeah.
Did you watch and this is a comedy, but did you watch The Chair Company?
I haven't yet, and I'm killing myself for not having seen it yet because I love Tim Robinson.
Oh,
Like,
he's absolutely the best. 100%. The Chair Company is it's funny. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's only funny because it's not happening to you. Like the rest of it is like, oh my gosh, this would be terrible to go through. But and I even said this about I Think You Should Leave. And watching it's funny, and it's right there on being like uncomfortably unhinged. And it rides that line so well. And it really does show you how close horror and comedy can be. Like, he's pretty much the Joker. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if somebody forced you to watch I Think You Should Leave, it would be very scary. Like, if somebody, like, tied you up and that was all it was on TV with no context, you wouldn't know what to think.
That's fair. First of all, I think that personally, me and my partner, we have watched I Think You Should Leave far too many times, more times than any human probably has. It's what goes on when there's nothing else to put on, and we'll just watch it. Now, and we've talked about how it's that level of uncomfortable, which it gets to that level, and then it just holds on to it.
It holds it,
and it holds on to it. And it goes past the point of it being awkward to the point where it becomes funny again. And it's such a hard line to ride. And oftentimes it is like terrifying. Like there are some of them are
exactly.
Horror. Absolutely horror.
It's disturbingly confusing, but funny at the same time. I think that it's a brilliant piece, and I was so happy that like it got awards, because in my brain I was like, okay, at least I'm not the only person that gets this, because I really get it. Like, I love it. Like, I really get I Think You Should Leave. And I think it fits just fine with all the other unsettling memories that I have in entertainment. Like it
Yeah.
really does. It's tucked right in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like to get trapped inside of VR because you
Yeah.
forgot how to walk and breathe
You
in VR. And it's
doesn't know
like
how
this
to read
quick.
when he gets out.
Exactly. I got all crossed up. Like, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's
The
funny, but it's not. Like it's not funny, but it's funny.
the one where it's the guy, the boss who's having, the surprise party, and the one employee is just uh like going to lengths to abuse the cardboard cutout of him, and he's watching it happen. It's just like it
Yeah,
is
just in the
unhinged,
distance,
but
like
it's
this is your
fantastic.
happiest moment, but somebody here hates you and they
Yeah.
want you to know. They want you
Yeah,
to know personally. It's so good. Just
it
money.
is.
I love it.
uh that's such a fantastic thought as well. Thank you for bringing that up.
I will always try to tie I think you should leave in somewhere in any conversation I have. It's kind of like my temperature check for people because it's like if we can connect and then we can talk about I think you should leave. I'm like,
Oh
okay, where
yeah.
this is good people right here. Yeah.
It's quoted every day at some point. So it's like,
So on the back of my iPad, I got this one for a gift, and then completely separately, I got this one. This one says, I finished a sloppy steak at Trufani's. This
yes.
one says, the bones are their money, and so are the worms. Like,
Yes. That's my favorite one. Oh
and
God.
it's one of the most unhinged. Like,
It is.
it's so good. Yep. But yeah, no. I think that Tim Robinson has a place. Tim Robinson does mentally what Jim Carrey did physically. Like how
That's
Jim
yeah.
Carrey could like make his body a special effect. I think that Tim Robinson's brain is like a special effect that in that same like how can a human think like this and why do I get it? Like why is
Yeah.
this, why do I get this? But no, I not to go too far off the rails, but like
No,
I
but
think that the chair company leads to Tim Robinson and Tim Robinson is kind of a cool monster.
he is. Absolutely. No, I didn't even think about psychological horror within like the comedy aspect, and that is I totally hits full on. So no, thank you for even thinking of that.
Oh yeah, no sweat.
Um
I love
so
being fake traumatized.
I had my seventh question on here was to tell us about your projects that are using psychological horror, and you've told us of a couple. I wasn't sure if you had any others that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, so you know what? I'm just gonna tell y'all about magic thinking. It's a short story. I think that it will be awesome visualized one day. It's so short that I think it's fine if we talk about it and if either this helps somebody else get sharp or make somebody say, hey, well maybe you should do this but better.
Mhm.
So anyway, so this guy's sitting in this bathtub and he's very upset about what his therapist is telling him about his magic thinking, him thinking that all these unspoken, unreal things, all the numbers that he sees when he's out in the world, it's just another form of his anxiety that's manifesting itself into seeing signs and symbols all over the place. And he's trying to explain what he doesn't understand, or maybe he does, is that I've seen things and I can do things. All the while, um, Yoda and Luke are on this projected TV screen in the bath, um, trying to pull the X-wing out of Dagobah.
Okay.
Luke can't do it. He looks over on the counter while he's sitting in the bathtub, and he sees his snack. that he left on the bathroom on the sink counter, but he's already in the tub.
Mhm.
And he's like, if I could just prove in one small thing that I can do the things that I'm telling my therapist that I can do. And he sees this thing, and I made the entire page completely dark, and you see the item on where the counter was, and this guy's now got his eyes closed and he's got his hand outreached. There's
Mhm.
probably, it's a good span in between the two of them,
Okay.
and he's visualizing this snack like floating towards his hand, and Yoda is pulling the X-wing out of Dagobah, and suddenly he feels his hand touch this item, and his eyes pop open. He's like, "No way!" But he looks, and the object didn't float to him. He now has a 12-foot long arm that has reached across and
Oh
grabbed
shit.
the snack that was on the sink. How do you undo something that you didn't know you could do in the first place? And the
Yeah.
story legit ends with him with an arm longer than his whole body. That's it. And that is from my love of The Empire Strikes Back. That's how I
That's
interpret
fantastic. And also horrifying.
it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's the abject horror of not being able to undo something like that, or not being able to understand how to undo something like that,
Right.
and
Yeah,
then just
totally.
ending it. Like, yeah, that leaves a lot of feelings.
Absolutely. That's always the goal. Absolutely. 100%.
Awesome. Um, is that a story? That's a story that you're hoping to put out this year? Is that the
It's written, and I would love to
that one
see it
is
realized this year. Yeah.
okay.
But I want to illustrate it. I definitely
Mhm.
want to illustrate it.
Yeah.
And sequentials take a little bit longer for me than
Mhm.
than writing sometimes. So, and I'm kind of wanting to to release it at the new shop, but
Cool.
I also don't want to. I never believe in forcing it, especially when
Mhm.
it comes to stories. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll
Okay.
see.
All right.
But yeah,
Well,
it's
I want to know.
definitely in the works. So you'll know for sure.
Um. Okay. So that then brings us to our wrap up questions. Um. The first wrap up questions, one that we ask every show, which is basically just talking about our favorite examples of psychological horror, and we have listed several, but at this point, it's really if there's any others that you wanted to mention, psychological horror in books or films or games or TV.
For a book, definitely Misery. I think
Mm,
Misery was one of the first horror books that I read from beginning to end in like the span of like a day and a half. I
okay.
didn't really put it down until it was done, but just the fact that Annie kept him on pills
Yeah.
while making him create, but not he wasn't creating to his ability. He was
No.
creating to her want, you know, and having to fight for your life to escape this. Like it's
Yeah.
not just a critic, it's not just somebody commenting or, bullying you online. Like this is like really life or death.
Yeah.
And I just felt like to read that book, um, especially at a time where I wasn't reading as a writer and I wasn't reading as somebody who analyzed horror. It was just like, here's a book. It was the safest Stephen King book that I could read that I didn't feel like was too supernatural because, I
Hmm.
was a good little Jehovah's Witness when I read Misery. But
Hmm.
I knew I connected to it somewhere, and definitely one of my favorite pieces of reading for psychological horror.
Okay.
Another one is Uzumaki. This
Oh
book is
yeah.
never very never very far from me because it starts with such an uncanny idea, but you realize how human it is throughout the entire book. Like it's probably the best piece of illustrated horror that I've read personally.
Okay.
So definitely
Yeah.
two books. We talked a lot about movies, so I wanted to give two books,
Yeah.
for my inspiration for psychological horror.
Nice.
And it's nice for it to dance on that line of surreal. And I think
Hmm.
that was in one of the earlier questions as well, was like, and I think that again, like that's kind of where I think that's where the chair company started out in that conversation, in this weird space, which,
Hmm.
you know, that's kind of what surreal is when it's a cerebral thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my
Okay.
two picks for psychological horror reading.
Okay. Um, yeah, of course I get to this point of the show and I forget everything that I had previously wanted to make note of. But the one that is fresh in my mind right now is a story that is coming out from Rapture Publishing that I had the supreme privilege to proofread before it is published, and it is Kathy
Very
Koja,
cool.
um, who did The Cipher, which is also psychological horror. But
Yeah.
it's called The Crying Room or The Cry Room. I think it's just The Cry Room. Um, and it is a very like stream of consciousness short story about somebody who runs a series of rooms where people just come to cry. And um and then I won't say anything more than that because it's very easy to sort of give away what
Of
happens, but
course. No,
she's
I get it.
being interviewed by somebody or they're being interviewed by somebody. So it's just them talking at this person. Um and it's really well done because it does a very good job of convincing you of one thing and then just like whipping things around on you.
Yep.
Um, so I do recommend that to people who might be looking for something
Oh yeah.
new.
Okay.
Um, and then my second question for you in the follow-up questions are, is psychological horror common? Which it sounds like it might be. um, or is it something that you use infrequently? So
Yeah,
can
it's
you
pretty. It's
answer
kind
that?
of hit or miss, No, I'm joking. No, that's it's my roots. Like psychological horror was my roots before I even knew it, and I'm just grateful that I get to see it realized in a completely different way. I get to weaponize it at this juncture, and that's kind of cool because at least I diffuse it through fiction and not through making people follow me.
Um, where can everybody find you on
Um,
socials and
Instagram, Fogbreaker Studios. There is a Fogbreaker Studios Facebook. I say there is one because I'm really trying to get better about posting on it, but I'm also like really trying to migrate. But with doing the store thing, I've kind of had to try
Mhm.
to use my active socials. I do have a Blue Sky that I'd
Yep.
like to get a little more active on. Fogbreaker Studios on Blue Sky as well. But anywhere you see a social, if you see Fogbreaker Studios, it's probably me. Unless it's not. So it'll show pretty quickly if it's not me. But yeah,
Yes, and if it's
usually yeah, it's somewhere. If you ever want to talk about ex Jehovah's Witnesses, you can find me. I would love to continue to be a resource for that because I do think that it can help a lot of people. That's something that I will never be above somebody sending me a direct message, and I'm happy to answer any question that somebody might have, and I'll do it as peacefully as I possibly can, but I'll do it as honestly as I can too, because it's that important.
And that's awesome. Thank you uh, for doing that, being a resource, and for telling us about your experience as well.
Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Yeah. And then remind everybody when the store is opening. Also,
83 and Company opens Wednesday, April 1st. It's at 199 Lisbon Street in Lewiston. And our grand opening weekend is the 4th and 5th. There'll be stuff all day. We'll be there all day. I'm taking that time off of work so that I can be at the store from Wednesday to Sunday the first week. But yeah, like come in, hang out, check out the cool stuff. We can talk about anything, and I'm always up to have any conversation about anything, especially the weirder the better. So come check out the store, pick up a few cool things, and let's chat.
awesome. Thank you, Jason, for being on the show tonight, and
Thanks for having me, Kat. This was a good time.
Yeah, this was fantastic. I love this. Definitely, we'll obviously have to do, more stuff together.
100%.
At some point, I will make myself get down to the store so I can check everything out. And then thank you everybody for hanging out with us, for chilling. You've got to stay tuned for next week. We have Chris DeLeo on, and we're going to be talking all about slasher horror. That's going to be
nice.
March 26th. So make sure that you come and hang out with us then. Otherwise, we hope that you have a wonderful evening. So
good night, guys.